Kicking off the list at number 10, Snake Island. Well, this island already sounds awful. What's going on here? Snake Island is located 95 miles off the coast of Sao Paulo, Brazil. Is that just a name of an island, or do a bunch of snakes live here? Well, sorry to tell you, both. What happened originally was thousands of years ago, the part of the land that once connected the island to mainland disappeared. The ocean rose up before any of these snakes had time to pack their snake bags, and they were stuck on this island forever. These snakes were stuck on the island decade after decade, so now these stuck snakes are just gonna, mate and have more snakes. Now the island's full of snakes. The number of snakes is going up. Higher and higher, it's never stopping. One of the deadliest snakes in the world, the golden lancehead viper, yeah, there's over 4,000 of them on this island. It's horrible. Back from 1902 to the early 1920s, a few brave souls lived there and operated the lighthouse. But according to some local myths, the last lighthouse keeper was swarmed by snakes after he left a window open. Worst thing I've ever heard. Let's move on. Number 9, Surtsey Island. While some islands ban humans, others ban humans and seeds. Yeah, no seeds allowed on Surtsey Island. Leave the work snackies behind, my friend. Surtsey Island is an important one on our list here today, as this island was born in 1963. We got a brand new baby island. This new island emerged from the sea 20 miles off the coast of Iceland, and it took around 4 years for Mother Nature to complete this little passion project. An undersea volcano formed this island over the course of 4 years. Just slowly, just making a new island. That's a long, hot process, so now what? What do you do with a brand new island? Sandals Resort? Disney parks? No and nope. Nobody is allowed on this island. The whole idea of Surtsey Island, which I love, is that scientists are trying to study how ecosystems can form themselves without the involvement of us humans. Scientists around the world have all gathered around to do nothing about this island. They're just gonna watch. Only a select few can enter this island, and right before they clock in, they're checked head to toe to make sure they don't have any seeds. 0 seeds. Why? Oh, because scientists found a tomato growing and they were scratching their heads. Where did this come from? How, out of nowhere, how could it be? They were stumped until they found out somebody went number 2 in that same spot long before. Yeah, welcome to Surtsey Island. Hold it. Better not take a shit here or you're fired, buddy. Number 8, North Sentinel Island. Heading over to India, this island is the home of the Sentinelese tribe, one of the most forbidden islands on the world. We're talking about it, let's do it. Located in the Bay of Bengal, North Sentinel Island is about 1,200 kilometers away from India, and while most islands are shrinking, this one is actually growing. It grew back in 2004 phenomenally. Back in 2004, the island lifted up a couple of meters during an earthquake, so the west and south sides gained an extra kilometer. The inhabitants on North Sentinel Island are among the few uncontacted tribes left in the world. You've probably heard about them or seen the thumbnail at some point. They have apparently been around for thousands of years, but there's no sign of agriculture or even fire. Yet still, this tribe has somehow continued to thrive. If we try and get close, they will attack us. After the 2004 tsunami, the Indian Coast Guard flew over to check on the island, make sure everyone's okay, but once they flew too close, the tribe attacked with arrows. So they could not land, obviously, but what if you arrived by boat? What would happen? Well, also bad. Back in 2006, 2 fishermen lost their lives because they got too close to the island without knowing who was on it. The Sentinelese have lived here for around 60,000 years, and I don't think they're going anywhere anytime soon. Number 7, Niue Island. Located in Hawaii, Niue Island is quite small, and its population as well is pretty minimal, but why? Where is everyone? This is a beautiful island. Why wouldn't you want to live here? Why do only 170 people live on arguably one of the most beautiful islands in the world? Niue Island has also been referred to as the Forbidden Island, hence why we're including it on our list here today. It was bought back in 1864 by Elizabeth Sinclair, and it's been privately owned since then. So no one knows what's going on, hence the small population. The thing is though, in 1952, the polio epidemic hit the islands and a ban was then put in place permanently. You couldn't leave or enter the island. That's it. Locked down to the extreme. Like an island lockdown, that'd be so scary. Nobody got sick, but now if you want to enter the island, you need to gain special access, which is a lot harder than it may seem. Absolutely no tourists or outsiders allowed. Period. It was sold by Hawaii's king Kamehameha back in 1863 to the Robinson family, but as of 1915, no outsiders again are still allowed in. Some island cult behavior is going on here, I don't know. Whoever lives here does so without plumbing, telephone lines, or Netflix. Impressive. Even today, the island is of course off bounds. The Coast Guard is always patrolling the island too as well. What do you think lies on Niue Island? Top secret government stuff? Probably. Number 6, Heard Island. Have you heard about this island? Heard Island? No? Well, listen up. Right in the middle of Antarctica and Australia, there is this island, Heard Island. The Australian government has made it illegal for anybody to visit it, so if you have some free time and a kayak and some suntan lotion, don't even think about it. Go the other way. You won't make it. So why is this island forbidden? Is this one full of deadly snakes? Maybe, honestly. The myth here surrounding Heard Island is that there's animals we don't even know exist living here. We got some secret hybrid animals. This sounds a lot like Jurassic Park so far. The island itself is quite unique geographically. See, Heard Island is home to 2 volcanoes as well as the tallest mountain in Australia. So there's plenty of space for hybrid animals to hide and be scary. I love the idea of animals getting their own island, honestly. We have enough, I'd say. Time to give 1 or 2 back. Except for Snake Island. That one, we don't want that one. You can keep that one for sure. Number 5, North Brother Island. Located right between Rikers Island and the Bronx, quietly tucked away on the East River, North Brother Island was once home to a hospital back in the 19th century. You may be thinking, a hospital on an island? How inconvenient is this? What's going on? Riverside Hospital was available for patients suffering from yellow fever, smallpox, or tuberculosis. So it was a quarantine zone, essentially. The hospital has since been abandoned. It's now sitting there literally falling to pieces. And the island has been quite active, oddly. A body was found near the island recently. A steamship called the General Slocum crashed on the island. There's also a haunted lighthouse on this island. And they even have what's referred to as Coffin Corner on this island. Yeah, Coffin Corner. I'm all set. I'd rather explore the Bronx than explore this island, honestly. Number 4, Robins Island. Okay, we have a forbidden island and it's not cursed. We have a nice one, dare I say. Here we go. The privately owned Robinson Island is massive and beautiful. It's not made of lava or snakes, it's just sand and trees. Just a good time. And best of all, no humans at all. The 435-acre island sits off the coast of New Suffolk, New York. Many names have come and go when it comes to island ownership here, but as of right now, it's forbidden and it's a nature preserve. I'm okay with that. We can stay away from that one. The owner now is a man named Louis Bacon. He has poured time and money into building the sanctuary, and he fears that if anybody else gets involved, the whole thing will just fail. Honestly, considering our number 1 spot, he's got a point. Aside from that side quest that Mr. Bacon's pulling off, Robins Island is also home to the largest population of turtles in the state. So don't worry, he's not completely alone. It's got a bunch of turtles. Number 3, Diego Garcia Island. An island with an airport. Okay, there's gotta be something good here, right? Located in the Indian Ocean, Diego Garcia is perhaps one of the most bizarre on this list. Definitely interesting. The island was once a part of the United Kingdom, but in order to settle up a debt in the millions, the UK had to hand it over to the United States. Gee, I wonder what they did with it. Is it a turtle sanctuary? Is it a Forbidden Seed Island Part 2, perhaps? What's the game plan here? What are we doing? Well, today Diego Garcia is a top secret military base. Hence the airport. Although it's forbidden to enter, there's over 600 buildings resting on this island, as well as thousands of military personnel, but again, nobody knows what the island is really hiding, or what it's being used for. Maybe this is where they're keeping the Winter Soldier. Could be. He could punch through anyone. You punch 6,000 people easily. Number 2, Poveglia Island. The small island of Poveglia has taken many lives. When the bubonic plague arrived in 1348, the island then became a quarantine colony, just like our one earlier. So if you had symptoms, you were sent to this island to... yeah, it was a sad reality. Not a lot of solutions back then. Again, in 1630, the Black Death crept in, and once again the center of this island became a mass graveyard. All bad so far. The soil, they say, is 50% human remains at this point. So if you're looking to plant some haunted sunflowers, there you go. There's your soil, weirdo. Today the island is abandoned, rightfully so. It's closed off to both tourists and locals. Hey, now that things are opening up again, what do you say we head to Poveglia Island? Check out some bubonic plague history. No? We're good? All right, cool. We'll go to Niagara Falls. If its dark history doesn't scare you away, the ghost stories surrounding the island might. In the early 20th century, mentally ill patients were sent to this island, but the doctor that was responsible for curing them for all these treatments, he would actually try these bizarre, insane methods. Cruel methods, really. And the doctor himself ended up going mad, and he ended up jumping to his death from the bell tower. The bell tower no longer stands, but the soil is still 50% remains. So either way, ghosts or history, that's a no from me. I would rather go to number 1, Garbage Island. We must finish with this one, the largest island of them all. The Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Smells good. Smells like the ocean and all the garbage we've thrown into it. It's located in the North Pacific subtropical gyre. There's basically 4 of these large systems just swirling ocean currents, and some of them are chock full of garbage. Pretty disturbing, right? I've heard of the garbage patch before, but I had no idea how large it really was. This trash island is 3 times the size of France. And if that's not big enough for you, it's twice the size of Texas. Someone's like, oh, now I get it. This island is man-made, obviously, and it continues to grow. But it's not all grim, however, for our #1 spot. There is a team working on reducing that size. The environmental nonprofit Ocean Cleanup has removed around 65,000 pounds of trash. So maybe next time you see this, there'll be only 9 islands. We're hoping.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Stairway to Heaven. The Stairway to Heaven, or the Haiku Stairs, is a very steep hiking trail that was closed in 1987. It was closed because of lack of maintenance of the trail, and it was deemed unsafe. It's considered one of Hawaii's most dangerous trails, but that didn't stop 18-year-old Dalen Pua from hiking out there. On February 27, 2015, Dalen went out for a hike. He had previously told his grandmother, who he was visiting, that he wanted to do so, but she warned him against it. Also, you can get charged if you do trespass, but that didn't deter Dalen. On that day, he told his grandma he was going out for a hike, but she didn't think he would dare to go there. She was wrong. The last time anyone saw him was around 11 a.m. when he sent a photo to his family of him at that location. He never returned home. Of course, there are a number of theories as to what happened to him. Maybe he fell while on the hike, since the area is dangerous. But then again, his body or bones were never found. Another theory is that he was kidnapped or killed by someone. In the photo he sent to his family, it said you can see a man lurking in the foliage. Was this his killer? Sadly, we might never solve this case. Coming in at number 9, we have Snake Island. With a name like that, who would even want to visit it? And as you probably guessed, it is covered in snakes. This island is apparently home to around 4,000 snakes, most of them being golden lancehead vipers, aka one of the deadliest serpents in the world. It's said that this type of viper can grow up to 18 inches long, and it's so poisonous that one bite can kill you within an hour. As a result, the Brazilian government has banned anyone from ever going there. If you do, well, chances are you won't make it back alive. Legend goes that a fisherman arrived at the island in search of bananas, but was found days later in his boat, dead in a pool of his own blood. Then from 1909 to the 1920s, a family lived on the island to run the lighthouse. But according to another legend, the entire family was found dead after a group of snakes came into their home and attacked them. So like I said before, you don't ever want to go to this island. Moving on to number 8, we have Area 51. Of course this had to be on the list. Area 51 is a top secret government facility that is illegal for the public to visit. Anyone that does try to trespass can be charged, arrested, or even shot to death. This is what happened to a man in 2019. On January 28th, the man attempted to get into Area 51. He was then chased down by some cars for 8 miles. When he got out of his car, he was shot dead. Another case would be the 2 YouTubers that were arrested in September of 2019 after they tried to sneak into Area 51 and were caught recording the premise. I know we all want to know what really goes on in there, like if they got aliens or whatnot, but curiosity killed the cat. Just saying. In our 7th spot, we have the Devil's Hole. With a name like that, maybe it's best you don't visit it. So the Devil's Hole is located in a national wildlife refuge in Nevada. You can tour the area, but access to the Devil's Hole itself is off limits. They have a sign and a fence guarding the area, and the sign reads as so: due to the scientific importance of this area and its fragile nature, unauthorized entry is prohibited. Yes, they want to protect the ecosystem, but also it is so dangerous to enter there. So Devil's Hole is like a little hole of water. When you dive in, it's filled with complex underwater caverns. Back in 1965, one night a group of 4 friends decided to hop the fence and explore the Devil's Hole. It was Paul, David, Bill, and Jack. Jack was on the lookout while the 3 dove in, but Paul never resurfaced. As a result, David and Bill both went back under to look for him, but then David never resurfaced. To this day, their bodies have never been found. Moving on to number 6, we have Ramree Island. Tourists are banned from ever visiting this island, because chances are your vacation will take a deadly turn if you decide to go there. This island is home to thousands of saltwater crocodiles, and they weigh around 2,000 pounds. Even the small ones pose a threat to humans. They have the capability of killing someone twice their size. On top of that, they are highly aggressive and will attack anyone that enters their habitat. In fact, the most number of fatalities in a crocodile attack took place at Ramree Island. In 1945, British soldiers drove the Japanese fighters off the main area of the island, forcing them to flee into the marshy area surrounding the island. One problem: those marshes were filled with hungry crocodiles. As a result, 500 soldiers were killed by these crocodiles. So yeah, maybe don't go to this island unless you want to be crocodile dinner. And of course, there's a number of stories of tourists going to this island and then being attacked and killed by these beasts. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Bouvet Island. Now here's the thing with Bouvet Island. You can visit it, but it would be a death wish if you did. Bouvet Island is extremely isolated and it's almost completely covered by a glacier. Its nearest inhabited land is 1,600 miles away. One way to get there is by boat, but it would take very long and you would be facing extreme weather conditions while doing so. As a result, most expeditions are done by helicopter. Even then, if the weather suddenly changes, you're basically screwed because the island is so remote and far away from other pieces of land. But in 1964, a lifeboat was found abandoned at this island. How did it get there? How could this little boat survive crossing the Southern Ocean? It's a mystery that still baffles many. But also, where did the passengers of the boat go, if they had any? We got no clue, just a couple of theories. And at number 4 we have Vortex Spring. Vortex Spring is known for having pretty complex diving caves, but only those that have a diving certificate or are accompanied by an experienced diver can go there by themselves. In the 1980s, 13 people died in the vortex. There's one area in the underwater caves that are considered so deadly that it's blocked off, and people are prohibited from entering there. It's got this creepy warning sign with the Grim Reaper, and it's often locked with a gate. It's just far too easy for people to get lost and drown in there. But that didn't stop Ben McDaniel. On August 18, 2010, Ben was seen entering the water near the caves and was never seen again. This case is quite strange, like there's a lot of pieces to it. Some say he faked his death because he owed the IRS a lot of money, and also he had a failed marriage, so maybe this was his way of starting over. Or Ben really did get lost in the caves and drowned, but his gear or body have never been found. In our 3rd spot, we have the Bolton Strid. The Strid near Bolton Abbey is said to be the most dangerous stretch of water in the world. Just by looking at it, you wouldn't even think it's dangerous. I mean, the current isn't even that fast. But below the water surface are strong undercurrents that will toss you back and forth against the sharp, jagged rocks until you die. It's also fairly deep and it could just suck you down until you drown. In fact, it has a 100% fatality rate. Everyone that has gone or fallen in have never made it out alive. Their bodies also have never been found. There are a number of stories of people trying to leap across the river only to slip and fall in. In one case, there was a newlywed couple visiting the Strid. However, upon trying to cross the Strid, the bride fell in, and the groom fell in also trying to save her. As a result, there are a number of warning signs all around the area trying to warn people of the Strid's dangers. But of course, a lot of people ignore the signs since the Strid is so deceiving and looks pretty safe. In our 2nd spot, we have North Sentinel Island. The reason why you can't visit this island is because it is home to a tribe that will kill anyone who dares to intrude on their land. They live their own life completely isolated from the rest of the world. In fact, they still live a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. But a man named John Allen believed that with the power of God, he would be able to convert them to Christianity and help them. He believed that this island was Satan's last stronghold on Earth. So in November of 2018, he headed out to the island. Now, the people that took him there knew of the dangers and really didn't want to, but he was so insistent that they finally gave in. In fact, they were later arrested for doing so. John's first attempt at making contact with them didn't go as planned. As soon as he stepped foot on the island, several men came charging at him, firing arrows. So he fled. But on November 16th, he tried again. He got a fisherman to drop him off alone, and that was the last time anyone had ever seen him. When people went back there for him, they saw the tribe members dragging his dead body with a rope. And in our number 1 spot, we have the Secret Cave. It was the evening of August 17th, 2005, and 5 friends were having dinner together. They were Scott McDonald, J. Blake Donner, Jennifer Lynn Galbraith, Ariel Singer, and Stephen Hunley. While eating, the group got to talking about this secret cave, which was a legend where they were from. It's all about this cool secret cave slash hangout spot. Rumor has it that's where human sacrifices were made, etc. But of course, no one thought it was a real cave. That's when Jennifer said that it was real and that she had been there before. The friends, not really believing her, asked her to bring them there. And so they did. So basically, up in the mountains by Brigham Young University, there was this small opening to a cave. The entrance was in the shape of a Y. But in order to get to the secret hangout spot, Jennifer told them they would have to dive down one area through this underwater tunnel to the other side, where there was an air pocket. The tunnel was 15 feet, and the gap they would have to swim through was 20 inches wide. So it was just enough for people to squeeze through. On top of that, someone had put a rope in the water so you could just pull yourself underwater with. So that's what the four of the friends did. Stephen Hunley decided to stay back. He waited for the group for about an hour, then he decided to call for help. And when police arrived, they were horrified at what they saw. So it seems like the group of friends successfully managed to get to the other side, but they couldn't make it back. The police ended up pumping out the water so that they could enter. And that's when they found all four of the friends' bodies stacked up against each other. It seems as if the person leading, who was Jennifer, got stuck on the way out and then she drowned. It would then be impossible to swim over her. So then the second person that went swimming was stopped at Jen's body, and they couldn't get back out because then the third person was coming in. So everyone was just blocked in this small tunnel. Slowly but surely, all of them drowned in this small dark cave. For safety reasons, this cave is no longer accessible.
Kicking off the list at number 10, WikiLeaks. Companies have to be somewhere, right? We're a film studio in Toronto, we go to work, we clock in, we clock out. This is a physical place that we go to. But where do places like WikiLeaks live? You know, where are all those odd safe houses, really? Well, apparently in Stockholm, buried around 100 feet below street level is an old nuclear bunker. Today, it's a facility owned by Swedish internet provider Bahnhof. This is where they keep servers for WikiLeaks, which is pretty hilarious. Julian Assange, frontrunner of this whole operation, his hard drive is in this bunker behind a 2-foot steel door accompanied by numerous backup generators. This guy will never get bored. If Netflix ever goes down, he's good. He's got like 2 weeks of movies. Number 9, King Tut's artifacts. The new Grand Egyptian Museum opened up in 2021, and while that's quite recent, the contents displayed inside certainly are not. For the first time in history, King Tut's ancient belongings, the artifacts discovered with him initially, will all be on display. Yeah, this is huge. Prior to this museum being open, we only saw around 150 artifacts from his tomb in entirety. They took all these pieces on tour, but now this museum will house thousands of artifacts. It's the final resting place for King Tut's collection. That's over 7,000 square meters of just Egyptian history, all on display for you. It's pretty amazing. If you have a chance to visit the Grand Egyptian Museum, or if you saw this King Tut World Tour live, nice. I'm jealous. I'm really jealous. Number 8, North Sentinel Island. Heading over to India, this island is the home of the Sentinelese tribe, one of the most forbidden islands in the world. But why? Really, why? It's located in the Bay of Bengal. North Sentinel Island is about 1,200 kilometers away from India. And while most islands are shrinking or disappearing, this one actually grew back in 2004. Yeah, the island actually lifted up a couple of meters during an earthquake, so it's getting bigger, gained an extra kilometer, nice. The inhabitants on this island are among the few uncontacted tribes left in the world. They've apparently been there for 50,000 years. There's no sign of agriculture or even fire yet, but somehow this tribe has thrived for this long. If we try and get close, they will try and drive anybody away with deadly force. In fact, back in 2006, 2 fishermen lost their lives because they got too close to the island without knowing who was on it. We don't even know how many people are on this island to this day. We have zero clue. They aren't exactly these ruthless hunters per se, they're just protecting their land. Like they've done so for thousands of years. They're protecting this island from us, pretty much. And they'll continue to do so. Yeah, we're not getting close anytime soon. Number 7, Lascaux Cave. If you didn't visit this cave back in, say, 1963 or sooner, you lost your chance, my friend. Forever. Yeah, officially closed. The Lascaux cave system is now a World Heritage Site in France. These cave paintings are 17,300 years old. Paintings that depict cattle, bison, stags, you name it. They're beautiful, they're complex, and of course, they're extremely old. So old that the cave was closed to the public forever in 1963 after it declared human presence wasn't too healthy for its art. Yeah, our breathing would eventually cause this art to fade away. Plus, I'm sure somebody would have snuck in by now with a Sharpie had it remained open. 17,000-year-old paintings. Protect these for another 17,000. Please. Number 6, Surtsey Island. When it comes to new things in life, it's pretty rare we get a new island. Yeah, how lucky are we? We're even luckier that Disney didn't build a resort here. Nice, because now scientists get to study what an island looks like without human interaction for a change. Yeah, oh, we're nervous now, eh? We're like, oh, what's gonna happen with it? Is it nice? Is the air better? Surtsey Island on Iceland. As of right now, it's only open to a few scientists and geologists. Everybody else, beat it, pal, get lost. It was born from a volcanic eruption back in 1963, coincidence, at the same year that the caves closed. And scientists all have one rule on this island. No seeds, nothing. Choose something else, anything else, please. One guy accidentally pooped out a tomato seed and almost lost his job. The guy almost ruined the whole operation because he ate a tomato. What a stressful job. Better hold it, I guess, if you work there. Number 5, Niha Island. Located in Hawaii, this beautiful island is also not a sandals resort. Yet. Nice, that's good stuff. What do you know? In fact, the population of this island is only a whopping 170. It's also referred to as the Forbidden Island. And it was bought back in 1864 by Elizabeth Sinclair, and it's been privately owned since, hence the small population. The thing is, in 1952, the polio epidemic hit the islands and a ban was put in place. So now you couldn't enter the island or leave. Yep, better pack your nicest flip-flops, buddy, you're staying. Nobody got sick, which is a good thing, but now if you want to enter the island or whatever, you have to gain special access, which is a lot harder than it may seem. Even if you're extremely rich, you can't just buy your way onto this island. There's something going on there. For now, we'll just, observe from a bush from afar. We'll just sit there with a telescope and have FOMO. Number 4, the Shanghai Complex. Most of the details on this one are still unknown. How fun is that? Nice. We love a nice mystery here on Top 10. The Shanghai Complex is a massive underground bunker, as you could have guessed. It's supposedly able to fit 200,000 civilians comfortably. Yeah, it's over 1 million square feet, and it was built in case a nuclear attack were to ever happen. Probably a great call. Probably some good stuff. This was a newspaper article back in 2006. Now imagine reading about this one morning while you're having your coffee, just all of a sudden an underground bunker. You're like, do we get tickets? How does this work? The Shanghai Morning Post touched on the new complex, saying it's got massive protective doors, everything you need, electricity, great ventilation. It can fully support life for 2 weeks. And yes, it's very secure. No one's getting in or out. Number 3, Svalbard Vault. Over the pandemic, I spent a lot of time playing video games. And a lot of these games always have a similar theme, I realized. Always like a post-apocalyptic, a lot of survivors and vaults. I'm referring to Fallout. That was definitely my go-to game. It's stressful but engaging, and in real life we have a global seed vault, and it's deep in the Arctic Circle on the island Spitsbergen. It's this massive bunker that has since been deemed the Doomsday Vault. That's nice. That has a nice ring to it. Sounds calming. This is where humans will store food crops. Like all of them. It contains 100 million seeds, so if the Earth all of a sudden were to get wiped out by White Walkers or all the ice melts, something bad happens and we're all doomed, well, this vault will be good to go long term. All that water that has since, eliminated humanity, plenty of hydration for future crops. April showers, I guess. Number 2, Denver International Airport. Since its opening in 1995, Denver International has been the subject of many myths. Some are pretty bizarre. I had to include it on our list today. Lizard people, that's the talk of the town. Apparently, they like to build airports on their off time, when they're not, ruling the Illuminati. Yeah, so far it's believed the Freemasons built this airport, or the Illuminati, or lizards, the New World Order, something, someone, I don't know. It's haunting. The airport itself is massive. It covers around 52 square miles. There's gargoyles that are hanging out in your baggage claim, so yeah, the art displayed is odd, that I get. It does seem creepy for sure. But the airport has started to lean into it almost. They laugh with this stuff. They have a conspiracy month that began back in 2016, so they're like, yeah, screw it, whatever you're saying, sure. They even showed a screening of Close Encounters of the Third Kind at the airport. What? Imagine you're traveling and this happens. I'd be like, what? Where am I? What year did I land in? I would lean into it too, honestly. If I was hiding a secret bunker, the only thing I would do is lean into it. Kind of like number 1, Area 51. Of course we have to talk about it. What is it real? Are there aliens? They were on the news. Is this a real place? Remember that Area 51 raid when everybody was determined to find out the truth about aliens? That big raid, that massive raid with everybody?
Everyone! We're not here for photos! We're here to rescue the aliens! Rescue!
Okay, so it didn't work, I don't think we got in. We didn't raid Area 51, obviously. I mean, I don't know, a handful of gamers in tinfoil hats can't overthrow Area 51 military. Who'd have thunk? Because it's one of the most forbidden places in the world to enter. That's why. It's common knowledge at this point, but why exactly did people get arrested in tinfoil hats? What were they hiding? What did they want to break into? We don't know, but we're trying weirdly? I don't know, Reddit wants to find out. Would you ever break into Area 51 if you had the opportunity? Sound off below, that's how I'm gonna leave this video.
Number 10. The Hollywood sign, California. I think you all know what I'm talking about when I bring up the Hollywood sign. Now, you might be confused, it's a huge tourist attraction. Yes, it is, but there are areas around the sign that are prohibited. The closest you can get to the sign is behind and above it, where you can enjoy the fabulous view of the city. Why can't you get up right and personal though? Well, the sign is on a rough, steep terrain, so there are barriers to prevent unauthorized access. In the year 2000, the Los Angeles Police Department actually installed a security system featuring motion detection and closed-circuited cameras. Any movement in the marked restricted areas triggers an alarm that notifies the police, therefore you cannot touch the sign. This place is heavily surveilled as it's monitored 24/7 by the Los Angeles Police and Fire Departments and park rangers. Although some people have gotten through security to vandalize the sign. I mean, does anyone remember Hollyweed on January 1st, 2017? Despite that though, it remains mostly prohibited. Number 9. Roberts Island, Suffolk County, New York. Located just off of Long Island, this private island is not only extremely valuable, it's impossible to access. The 435-acre teardrop of land belongs to billionaire businessman Louis Bacon and is thought to be worth around $500 million. He purchased it in 1993 at the bankruptcy court auction for $11 million. He has made significant investments into restoring the neglected island, going so far as to import full-grown oak trees to replace ones harvested for lumber years later. Some non-native grasses were removed from the island and replaced, and hunters reduced an overgrown deer population. The island also has the healthiest turtle population in the state, which includes the eastern mud turtle. Lewis has spent years rebuilding the ecosystem, and he believes that allowing others on the island will lead to its destruction, so no one can visit. And I mean, that is a pretty good reason, no? Number 8. Lascaux Caves, France. Lascaux Caves is a network of caves near the village of Montigny. Over 600 wall paintings cover the interior walls and ceilings of the cave. The paintings represent primarily large animals, typical local contemporary fauna that correspond with the fossil record of the Upper Paleolithic in the area. They are the combined effort of many generations, and with continued debate, the age of the paintings is now usually estimated at around 17,000 years. They're beautiful, but unfortunately the cave was sealed to the common public following 1963 in order to preserve the site, which is listed as a World Heritage Site by the UNESCO. However, in order to allow everyone to admire the masterpieces of prehistory, a reconstruction of the Leto site has been made so you can do a virtual tour, which is still pretty cool. Archaeologists concluded that human proximity might ruin the ancient work of art, so you can only enjoy it through your screen. Number 7. The Whites Club, UK. Okay, so men can enter this place, but women can't. And if you're non-binary, I don't really know what to tell you. At White's, the club is so exclusive that few have ever managed to sneak inside and find out what really goes on in there. There are, incredibly, certain places in the world where women are forbidden access, the best known probably being gentlemen's clubs, which are very popular within British culture. Founded in 1693 and located at 37 St. James Street in Piccadilly, the members of the Whites Club include political leaders, senior bankers, and even heirs to the British throne, so yeah, Prince William is a part of this club. The restriction on women is so strict, only the late Queen Elizabeth has ever managed to gain entry, but I mean, she was the queen, it's not like they could have said no. According to the Telegraph in 2013, David Cameron voluntarily left the select club, saying, "I'm dismayed the club does not accept women as members. I find that inexplicable in this day and age, I really do." The members of London's oldest and most elitist gentlemen's club has shrunk to 500, and its bar has been open for over 200 years. Number 6. Doomsday Vault, Norway. The Doomsday Vault is a seed bank located in the middle of the Arctic Svalbard archipelago. There are 3 vaults leading off from the chamber, but only one is currently in use, and its door is covered in a thick layer of ice, hinting at the sub-zero temperatures inside. In here, the seeds are stored in vacuum-packed silver packets and test tubes in large boxes that are neatly stacked on floor-to-ceiling shelves. These boxes potentially hold the keys to the future of global food security. These seeds are here in case of a catastrophic event. Now, over the past 50 years, agricultural practices have changed dramatically, but while crop yields have increased, biodiversity has decreased to the point that now only about 30 crops provide 95% of human food energy needs. The US has lost over 90% of its fruit and vegetable varieties since the 1900s. This monoculture nature of agriculture leaves food supplies more susceptible to threats such as diseases and drought. Due to all this, the vault isn't open to the public, and it can allow entry to special guests, but only on certain days. Number 5. Isle Grand Shrine, Japan. Japan is known worldwide for its shrine culture and has nearly 80,000 shrines in total. The most prominent out of all is the Isle Grand Shrine. It's one of the most expensive temples in Japan, credited to its architectural magnificence. To keep the Shinto traditions, which go back to the 8th century, this temple is reconstructed once every 20 years. That's why this temple is so expensive. Only members of the royal family are granted access to this prestigious ancient representation sacred to the Japanese. Due to this, the general public is not allowed beyond the sight of the thatched roofs of the central structures, hidden behind 4 tall wooden fences. Number 4. North Brother Island. North Brother Island is a small island located in New York City's East River between the mainland Bronx and Rikers Island. Now, not only is this island forbidden, it's also hidden, overrun by weeds, and unsafe for the public. Plus, its sensitive ecosystem is much safer without visitors. This dystopian-looking island was abandoned 50 years ago, but prior to that, in the mid-19th century, North Brother Island was filled with people. At this time in history, disease and illness were rampant in New York, and this isolated island was the perfect location for the sick to be quarantined. Riverside Hospital was relocated there and had been founded in the 1850s as the smallpox hospital to treat and isolate victims of that disease. Its mission eventually expanded to other quarantinable diseases. Now, the island was also the site of a wreck of the General Slocum, a steamship that burned in 1904, where 1,021 people died either from fire on board the ship or from drowning before the ship beached on the island shores. Safe to say, this island has seen a lot of horrors, so much that it has been nicknamed Hell's Gate for its dangerous waters and is rightfully off limits. Number 3. Surtsey Island, Iceland. Surtsey is a small island situated on the south coast of Iceland. It was created as a consequence of a volcanic explosion that continued for 4 years. Surtsey is also known globally for being the newest island on the globe. It was formed just 55 years ago, which meant scientists had the unique opportunity to observe the birth and evolution of an ecosystem from scratch. This fascinating event is precisely what makes its access restricted to the rest of the world. It all began in 1963 when a violent volcanic eruption 32 kilometers south of Iceland resulted in the formation of Surtsey. Bacteria, fungi, and molds were the first to arrive on the island. Subsequently, the number of animal and plant species increased exponentially. According to UNESCO, it's estimated that around 89 species of birds and 335 invertebrates populate the area. In order to not alter this development, only researchers are allowed to visit the island, which again makes a lot of sense. They want to protect this island, but the whole idea of this is just really cool. Number 2. Snake Island, Brazil. As per the name, Snake Island is an island in Brazil packed with thousands of poisonous snakes. Yep, just load it up all in there. No human even dares to risk their life stepping on Snake Island, and if you were to try, you'd be stupid. Snake Island has a reputation as the most forbidden place in the world, not only in Brazil. This place is so deadly that the government has announced it's prohibited by law to step onto the island. It's calculated that there are nearly 4,000 golden laceheads crawling around the island. These are the most poisonous serpents known on Earth. So even if you were able to go on the island, you'd probably get bitten by a snake and die, which I feel like isn't worth it. I know I wouldn't risk it. And I mean, if a snake doesn't hurt you, the government will, as it's illegal to go there, so neither of those sounds like a good option. Plus, who wants to go to a place called Snake Island? Please, stay away from there. And coming in at number 1, North Sentinel Island, India. North Sentinel Island is one of the most forbidden places in the world. It is where the Sentinelese tribe resides. The people occupying the island usually resolve to violence to keep their isolation still ongoing. The Sentinelese tribe have existed on the island for more than 50,000 years as per the protection given by the Indian government. This island is stringently forbidden for any visitors of any kind. Throughout history, encounters with the population have been met with violence. In 2006, they ended the lives of 2 fishermen whose boat had been dragged by the current on their shores. According to The Guardian, a 3-mile restriction zone prevents visitors from entering the territory. And according to Survival, an NGO for the rights of indigenous and tribal peoples, the Indian government has abandoned any plans to contact the Sentinels. The entire tribe could be wiped out by diseases to which they have no immunity, which is why authorities respect their wish to remain uncontacted.
Starting off this countdown, we have the Bluffs. Scarborough, Ontario is known for their bluffs. We call them the Scarborough Bluffs. It's a very popular place to go to and the view is amazing. Tons of people like climbing to the top of the bluffs and then like looking down at the lake below. But over the time, the bluffs have been subjected to erosion and have had landslides. And some of the ground on top of the bluffs has been known to give away under people's feet if they get too close to the edge. As a result, they fenced off the bluffs to avoid this from happening. They even have a security guard monitoring the area to prevent people from going to these bluffs. Sadly, people still don't listen, and a number of people have snuck their way to the top of the bluffs. A number of people have fallen to their death. In 2018, there were 18 incidents that involved people falling down from the bluffs. People don't understand just how dangerous this area is. They look at it as a good photo opportunity. In our 9th spot today, we have Disneyland. Now, you might be like, huh? Lindsay, Disney is not a prohibited location to visit. Well, yes, you're allowed to go there during the day when it's open, but it's illegal to try to enter the park and trespass when it's closed during the night. That's what teen Thomas Guy Cleveland tried to do in 1956. Now, the park wasn't completely closed. It was hosting their annual grad night. Thomas thought it would be a good idea to try to sneak into the park, so he climbed over the park's 16-foot-high fence. Then he climbed onto the monorail track. His plan was to then run along the monorail track until he was inside the park and then jump or climb down. However, this didn't go according to plan. While trying to sneak into the park, the monorail came along the track and struck him. It ended up dragging his body 30 to 40 feet down the track. He sadly lost his life. In our 8th spot today, we have SeaWorld. What's with people trying to sneak into amusement parks at night? This is another example of it gone terribly, terribly wrong. On July 6th of 1999, a man named Daniel Dukes snuck into SeaWorld. It said that Daniel was kind of a hippie and he loved animals. All he wanted to do was to be able to swim with the whales. So he stayed into the park until it closed and then managed to elude security in order to make his way to Tilikum's tank. That's where he hopped in naked and swam around. Sadly, Tilikum attacked and killed him. He was found the next day dead, floating on the back of Tilikum. His body was so badly disfigured from the whale that they had to do a closed casket funeral. In fact, chunks of his skin and body were found floating around the tank. In our 7th spot today, we have the Hawaii Blowhole. The Halong Blowhole in Hawaii is quite an amazing sight to see, but it is very, very dangerous. Hence why it's fenced off and surrounded by signs saying no trespassing. Well, in June of 2002, Daniel Dick and his family went on vacation in Hawaii. Where they were staying was connected to a beach, and the beach was right by this blowhole. One morning, Daniel went out to the beach alone and started chatting up some girls. From there, he convinced them to come with him to this blowhole. While there, Daniel hopped over the fence and went directly to it. He hovered over the blowhole until it shot up water. Daniel ended up shooting up into the sky, and then on his way down, he fell into the blowhole. He was then trapped in there, and it was high tide, so it was impossible to swim out or to climb out of it the way that he came in. He was stuck in there for nearly 20 hours before it was safe to save him, but by that time, he had already died. In our 6th spot today, we have the Stairway to Heaven. Located in Hawaii, the Stairway to Heaven is considered one of Hawaii's most dangerous trails. It's very steep and a number of people have died or have gotten badly injured from climbing it. As a result, it was closed in 1987. But that didn't stop Dalen Pua. On February 27th of 2015, Dalen trespassed into the area and decided to climb this path. He had done so without telling his family where he was going. He knew that they would stop him because his grandmother told him just how dangerous it was. Sadly, he never returned home. His body was never found. The last time Dalen's family ever heard from him was around 11 a.m. that day when he texted his family a photo of him at the trail. Theory goes that he ended up falling to his death. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Pelican Valley. In July of 1984, a woman named Birgitta Friedenhagen and her 3 pals were exploring this area. Birgitta had plans to stay the night in Pelican Valley, which is near Yellowstone National Park. It is very dangerous though. In fact, park rangers say you should only go there if you're in a group of 4 to 7 during the day, and you have to stick to the path. Birgitta, however, decided to go alone and camp the night. That night, she was attacked and killed by a bear. It dragged her out of her tent by her skull and sadly ate her. The park rangers literally warned her about staying there alone, but she assured them that she was an experienced camper and that she could handle it. Sadly, the park rangers were right. In our 4th spot, we have Snake Island. Now, I didn't mention Snake Island in my last video, and I got so many comments being like, what about Snake Island? But then when I do mention Snake Island, you guys are like, ugh, not Snake Island again, so I can't win. But I will say it does deserve a spot on today's list, so I'm putting it there. So as most of you know, Snake Island is a very dangerous island located in Brazil. And that's because this island is home to around 4,000 snakes. Most of them being golden lancehead vipers, aka one of the deadliest serpents in the world. It's said that this type of viper can grow up to 18 inches long, and it's so poisonous that one bite can kill you within an hour. A number of people who have gone to this island have wound up dead. First off, we have the family that was actually running a lighthouse on the island from 1909 to the 1920s. That was until the entire family was found dead in the lighthouse from snake attacks. Another time, a fisherman came to the island searching for bananas, and he never made it home. He was found days later in his boat in a pool of his own blood. As a result, the Brazilian government has banned anyone from ever going there. And if you do, they say that you won't make it back alive and you'll die within an hour. In our 3rd spot today, we have Yellowstone Hot Springs. Yellowstone has a number of natural springs that are absolutely beautiful. Some you're even allowed to swim in. Others will literally cook you alive. In fact, at least 22 people have died from hot spring related injuries. As a result, there are clear signs on areas you can and cannot visit. All visitors must remain on the boardwalk. Straying off this path can be deadly, and that's what happened to Colin Nathaniel Scott in June of 2016. He was with his sister out looking for a place to hot pot, aka to soak in some warm water, and while out looking for this place, he ended up slipping and falling into a boiling hot spring. Emergency services were unable to retrieve his body right away. By the time that they got to him, his body had dissolved from the boiling temperatures. All that was left of him was his wallet and melted flip-flops. In our 2nd spot today, we have North Sentinel Island. Now, this is another island that we have talked about a lot on this channel. Again, it definitely deserves a spot on today's list. Now, the island is home to a tribe that is so isolated from the rest of the world, and they do not like outsiders, which makes sense, okay? They just want to protect themselves and their home. But a man named John Allen Cho thought that it was his job to help him, that this is what God wanted him to do, and if he taught them Christianity, then he could change their lives. So on November of 2018, he headed out to this island. Although a number of people refused to take him there and literally told him that it was a death wish. In the end, he made multiple attempts to befriend the Sentinelese, but they were not having it. They would fire arrows at him to try and get him to leave, but he was persistent. November 16th was the last time anyone would ever see Alan again. Alan was dropped off on the island, and when the boater went back to get him, he saw tribe members dragging his dead body by a rope. And in our number 1 spot today, we have the Nika Caves, Mexico. Now, this is a beautiful cave filled with giant crystals or gypsum pillars. The cave was discovered in 1910 when miners were drilling in the area, but soon the area was deemed unsafe. and that's because of the climate. The air temperature is around 113 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 47 degrees Celsius, and the humidity is killer, literally. The levels were close to 100%, meaning if anyone was in there for more than 10 minutes without special breathing apparatuses, then their lungs will fill with water and they will drown. So the caves were closed off. That was until 2 miners drilled into it while searching a separate area nearby. When they got inside, they saw all these giant crystals and they're like, you're coming home with me. Little did they know the hazard of being there. So one of the miners started sawing off one of the giant crystals. However, it ended up falling and pinning him under it. Now, this didn't actually kill him. What killed him was being in this hot environment for too long. It said that he either drowned to death or that he was cooked alive.
Kicking off the list at number 10, Nauru. It's safe to say that the last few years have been a little rocky. Yeah, our plans had to shift a bit, to say the least. Nauru, however, is a tiny island located in the southwestern Pacific. It didn't have to shut down during the pandemic. It didn't really see much change. It's the world's smallest island nation, and it was originally called Pleasant Island back in 1798 when Westerner John Fern first discovered it. Pleasant Island, yeah, it started out pretty pleasant, like most islands do. And then when humans got involved, it went to The island's natural resource at the time was phosphate, but overmining made the tiny island pretty much useless now. There isn't even a port, yet this island had a railway. Just a tiny island with barely anybody there and a running train. As far as cursed locations go, this one's on my travel list. If only they would just allow visitors. Maybe one day. Number 9, Bangar Fort. Back in the 16th century, King Madho built this massive Bangar Fort in India. The population of the small town was around 1,000 folks at the time. It was a beautiful fort, and he considered this a luxury. Rightfully so. I mean, it looks like a set piece from Game of Thrones. This is beautiful. The legend has it that Princess Ratnavati, who at the time was living in the luxurious fort, she was the talk of the town. Dudes were proposing left, right, and center. Princes of all over the world would come in and try and take her hand. But she was like, maybe, no. I don't know. And then one day when visiting town, a magician named Scindia saw the princess shopping for perfumes. So he asked her out, she said no, and he was like, okay, what's step 2 here? What's plan B? So he then used black magic of Vashikaran on the princess. Yeah, he mixed it with the perfume she was admiring, but it didn't work. Luckily, she caught on, she smashed the perfume, and as the bottle broke apart, the magician cursed the entire fort and those living inside of it. And then, only a few days later, an entire war erupted around the fort, and there were tons of casualties. Yeah, let's avoid this area forever, shall we? Cool, great, moving on. Number 8. Kaluapapa. Heading over to the beautiful Hawaii for this one. Always wanted to go. Thing is, islands in the middle of nowhere freak me out. And also, haunted villages, they freak me out as well, just a little bit, we don't like those. Once referred to as the most cursed place on Earth, the coast of Molokai sounds like a great time. And from Google Earth, it certainly looks like a fair weekend getaway. But for over 100 years, this was an isolation coast for patients with leprosy. Yeah, not an ideal paradise. Nothing like paradise there, not at all. Nothing like sandals. We're not gonna build the sandals on this one, I don't think. That of course had to change at some point, and the laws did in 1969. So as of right now, no more than 5 people are allowed to live on this island due to its cursed and horrible history. So you have to get on a waiting list for this one. Number 7, the Whaley House. Located in San Diego and built in 1857. The Whaley House is an example of why you don't build your house on cursed land. Yeah, here's why you don't do it, guys. The site that this family home was built on was also once the location of San Diego's first public gallows. Yeah, what a fun fact that is. Imagine selling a home and being like, oh, did you know, by the way? Yeah, no, I don't want to know, thank you. And apparently right after building this home and then moving in, Thomas Whaley said he could hear the footsteps of Yankee Jim Robinson, who had previously lost his life in the same gallows only 4 years prior. After the family had settled, they had all began to experience a bunch of family tragedies, most of which happened inside this house. Hence the cursed land aspect. As of today, the Whaley House is now a museum, and apparently the family members continue to haunt the site. So sadly and thankfully, you can't live there anymore. They made a museum to make sure nobody ever stays the night. No guards either. They're like, no, just everyone leave at night, that's good. These paranormal occurrences are often accompanied by the smells of cigar smoke and heavy perfumes, so that's a sign of demons. Either that, or it's the old couple behind you the entire tour that keeps talking. They're like, what did she say? Grandpa breath in the back of your neck. Get out of here. Number 6, the Forbidden City. Yeah, of course we have to mention this beauty. Forbidden City? Kinda hits the mark. Located in Beijing, China, the Forbidden City has quite the reputation. That of a pretty horrible one too. This building used to be the Imperial Palace, but now it's a museum, and of course, like other places on this list, it's littered with tourists whenever it can be. They're like, oh, we can't go here, it's haunted? No problem, let's just all gather at the same time. They can't stop us all. This building has quite the grim history, so the amount of reports that come in, sightings of demon, there was a handful online, honestly. The number of ghostly encounters shot up once the palace opened to the public in 1940s. And in many cases, visitors would report seeing a ghostly woman dressed in, you guessed it, all white. The classic all white ghost look. Like, can't they just wear jeans, like a turtleneck, you know, mix it up a bit? Don't you have a wardrobe up there? More often than not, you can find her ghost wandering the palace at night, weeping. Yeah, those who are brave enough to wander at night say they can hear a woman crying just from all around. I can't tell if I'm sad or more scared now at this point. Bit of both. Number 5, Hoi Baki Forest. Heading over to Romania, some UFO action on this one, believe it or not. Yeah, back in 1968, a unidentified hovering craft was spotted over this forest. Many locals at the time looked at it as a getaway to another dimension, which is a pretty strange thing to say when seeing something in the sky. A lot of folks disappeared, like they just went into the forest, looked at it, and then they were gone. Locals referred to this legendary forest as the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania. Again, not a bad nickname. Perhaps the scariest place I can think of. Yeah, a haunted forest in Transylvania that's kind of like the Bermuda Triangle with Sleepy Hollow trees. I'm all set. I'm good. You lost me at Transylvanian Forest, to be honest with you. Number 4, Anjikuni Village. Heading over to Canada for this one. Anjikuni Village is located in Nunavut. This curse began around in the 1930s. It was a cold winter's night, as most of them are in Canada. The moon was completely full, and Joe LaBelle, a fur trapper at the time, was traveling to the most northern region expecting to meet up with company. Only when he arrived to the village, he found it completely empty, despite every hut being filled with supplies, clothes, pots of food, etc. Just everything. Perhaps one of the most jarring details of this winter excursion was the graves of those who had passed before in the village. Those graves were opened up. All of them. Meaning whoever or whatever came by most likely set into motion a cursed village. Great, thanks. This sounds horrible. People do this in Egypt now. We're like, stop opening these tombs, please. There's pandemics, like clearly there's something afoot. I don't know who or what wanted to open those tombs, but you need to read a book, my friend. Or a map, clearly. Number 3, the Devil's Sinkhole. A sinkhole. Cursed. Why, of course. What else is a sinkhole? Obviously it's cursed. This one's located in Rock Springs, Texas, and it's 50 feet wide and 400 feet deep. A lot of people claim this is the entrance to the underworld. And it certainly looks the part, doesn't it? The Devil's Sinkhole was first discovered way back in 1876, and it wasn't empty, which is pretty scary considering it's a brand new hole into the earth. Findings of arrowheads, bones, and burnt rocks suggest at one point in time this was probably an ancient burial ground or an ancient palace of sacrifice. Either way, let's go home. Let's back it up. Oh, cool. Chris, if you found a bone in a hole in your backyard, would you just move? Yeah. Exhale, then yeah. Not even like a maybe. Confidently, yes. A place called the Devil's Sinkhole is of course now a tourist attraction. People just sneak in and try and see what's down there, but more so because of the amount of bats inside that will just flock out. Locals will often gather some evenings to observe millions of bats pour out of the sinkhole to, hunt for food. So unless Bruce Wayne is down there, I'm betting on this being the Devil's Doorway. For sure cursed. Let's move on. Number 2, Huska Castle. According to folklore, the Huska Castle, which is located north of Prague in Czech Republic, is built over a bottomless hole that leads directly down to hell. The legend claims that the 13th century King Ottokar II offered a pardon to any prisoner who agreed to be lowered into this pit in order to see what was down there. Sure, I would do it. I'm not gonna lie, I'd probably do it. Woo! The first prisoner who was lowered into the pit, he only lasted 30 seconds before he started screaming. Legend has it, as soon as he was brought back up, his hair had turned white and he had aged 30 years. Yeah, some Avengers Endgame science right there. We need to go back to this pit and figure something out. He was also telling stories of these half-human creatures that flew around in the darkness with scaly wings. Sounds like somebody we know, I think, on this list. I don't know. The castle was built over the hole without things like water sources or any kitchens or anything like that because apparently it wasn't meant to be used by humans, but rather as a place to capture the demons should they rise from this mysterious devil hole. Nice. I'm glad we got some real estate on standby for these guys. Can't leave the demons out of the real estate market. We're good. We're inclusive. Just a bunch of demons. They're like, oh, it's good spacing. How many bathrooms? Just floating around. 3 bathrooms, I think that's good. That's good for a family. That's good. It's good for 4. And finally, number 1, Rainham Hall. Norfolk, England. I've been to England a couple times now, and I gotta say, one of the most beautiful places that I've ever been to. I would love to live there if I could. Just, not here specifically. Just not around Rainham Hall. because we don't like cursed halls. The Lady of Raynham Hall became a popular tale back in 1936 after this photo was published in the papers. Legend has it it's the ghost of one Dorothy Townshend. She was the sister of Robert Walpole, who was the first prime minister back in 1676. Some history for you. Some reports say the image is a result of a long exposure gone wrong, but it's so long ago, this is the most compelling thing we have really to the paranormal. More than likely, it's long exposure gone wrong, but either way, I wanted to finish off on a cursed place with an actual photo. You know, I like to include real photos for you guys. This is one of, if not the most debated photo of a spirit of all time. The first sighting was Christmas Day, 1835, so make sure you're not in the naughty list if you live around here. He's checking twice, apparently, that big old guy.
At number 10, Bohemian Grove. The only way you're getting to this super exclusive club is if you're a very powerful man. Bohemian Grove is a private club for the most powerful men in the US, located on a restricted 2,700-acre campground on Bohemian Ave in Monte Rio, California. Every July, its members travel to the grounds for a 2-week retreat to relax and specifically not network. There is little known about what happens during the retreat. One thing powerful men are good at is keeping things hidden. The club's all-male membership includes many artists, musicians, prominent business leaders, government officials, former presidents, and senior media executives. Members are also allowed to bring guests and even rent out the grounds for its off-season private events. If your interest has been sparked, good luck getting anywhere near Bohemian Grove. It's protected by security year-round, with the club employing ex-military personnel to secure the area. They also utilize high-end equipment like thermal cameras and vibration sensing alarm systems. Some presidents that have visited are George Bush, Richard Nixon, and Ronald Reagan. Basically, there's no chance of getting in unless you have some pretty important friends. Number 9, the Coca-Cola Vault. Coca-Cola is one of the biggest brands in the world. The corporation was founded in 1892, so the recipe has been around for over 120 years. It definitely has undergone some tweaks since the 1800s, but now it doesn't contain illegal substances, so it really only changed for the better. The secret formula is located inside World of Coca-Cola in Atlanta, Georgia. While you can absolutely visit the museum itself, showcasing the history of the company, the actual vault that holds the formula is off limits. The actual recipe is located inside of a metal box inside of a 6.6 foot high vault, which is then further protected by a barrier, and the entire area has surveillance with armed guards. The door to the vault can only be opened by a keypad with a hand scanner. It sounds a bit extreme to take all these measures over the recipe for Coke, but with the company bringing in over $42 billion in 2022, the extra security makes total sense. I never thought about seeing the formula of Coke, but now that I know it's in a highly guarded fancy safe, I've never wanted to see something more. Number 8, Granite Mountain Records Vault. The world's largest collection of genealogical records lives in a secure vault located quite literally in the mountains near Salt Lake City, Utah. The Granite Mountain Records Vault was built in 1965 by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The purpose of the vault is to preserve and protect records of importance to the church, like its vast collection of family history microfilms. This is an extremely secure facility with no public access allowed. What we do know is that it's home to 2.4 million rolls of microfilm containing approximately 3.5 billion images of family history records. I guess when the Mormon Church says they're a family-centered faith, they aren't kidding. The church is collecting all of these microfilmed images in order to digitize them and turn them into digital records available through FamilySearch.org. Some people think there is more going on in that facility than we're being told, with conspiracy theories and suspicions surrounding the whole operation. The vault is located under 700 feet of solid mountain stone with 3 tunnels and 4 cross tunnels inside, spanning over 65,000 square feet. They also have reinforced entrance doors that weigh 14 tons each and were said to be able to withstand a nuclear blast. These factors are what really led people to being skeptical of their operations, because A, that's a lot of room for converting microfilms, B, that's a lot of security for the names of the deceased, and C, more recent images of the vault seem to show they've expanded the facility to now have 5 entrances instead of 3. Some thoughts surrounding what else is stored there are significant artifacts, ancient relics, or even a bunker. Maybe the expansion is just for expanding operations, but who knows, maybe they really are hiding something else in that vault. At number 7, Area 51. The widely known name refers to that of a highly classified United States Air Force facility located located in Nevada, which is highly prohibited to those without authorization. The fact that it's a government facility that is super off limits and highly guarded has led people to famously associate Area 51 with aliens. For decades now, the facility has been the eye of a conspiracy theory storm, with people convinced that aliens and their technology exist behind its walls. Being told you can't go somewhere or that something is a secret only makes you more interested to know about it. There have been many books, TV shows, and even plans online for massive raids trying to get a glimpse of what lies beyond the very prominent warning signs, to no success. Upon looking at Area 51, it appears like the only protection against unwanted guests is the many warning signs, but apparently not a single thing goes unnoticed. Beyond the gates, cameras see every angle, watching everything below. Locals say the base knows every desert tortoise and jackrabbit that hops the fence. No matter how interested you may be, only a select few have access to what goes on there, causing so many theories and speculations. Who knows, maybe it's alien experiments, maybe it's the most mundane, boring work we could ever imagine. Either way, we aren't going to be finding out anytime soon. Number 6. Cheyenne Mountain Complex. It's located at Cheyenne Mountain Air Force Station, or CMAF, within the Peterson Air Force Base in Colorado Springs, Colorado. The CMAF falls under Air Force Base Command and hosts the activities of several tenant units. At the height of the Cold War, the idea of a hardened command center was thought of as a defense against long-range Soviet bombers. The Army Corps of Engineers supervised the excavation of Cheyenne Mountain and the construction of an operational center. The facility became fully operational as the NORAD Combat Operations Center in early 1967. Since it's a big old place for government stuff, Cheyenne Mountain Complex is protected and closed to the public. It's located under 2,000 feet of granite with 6 tunnels, each 3 stories tall. It's also secured against seismic activity and nuclear explosions. So basically, it's pretty high on the list of places I would like to be during a zombie apocalypse. It has 2 main blast doors which are 3.5 feet thick and weigh over 20 tons. These massive doors close in times of emergency and have only been shut once during 9/11. Since this complex is home to so many important operations like a space control center and national warning facility, it's locked and guarded to the nines. That being said, since we know some of what's going on down there, it's far less desirable to visit. At number 5. Tillamook Rock Lighthouse. Located on the northern Oregon coast of the United States, also known as Terrible Tilly or just Tilly, this is one lighthouse that you can't visit. Tilly gained its nickname from the ferocious storms and difficulties facing the lighthouse keepers. Tillamook Rock rises nearly 100 feet from the sea and is located 20 miles south of the mouth of the Columbian River. Building the lighthouse in the first place was rough. The first person hired to take on the project was master mason and lighthouse builder John Trewavis. Unfortunately, John ended up being swept out to sea after falling off the rock before he could get far. After this incident, craftsmen were reluctant to work on the lighthouse, but construction foreman Charles Ballantyne stepped up with a crew of 8. Once on the rock, the men worked under horrible conditions. One day the wind was so bad it swept away their supply house and left workers stranded for 16 days. After preparing the rock, the construction of Tilly took over 100 days to complete. Tillamook Rock Lighthouse began operations in January 1881. With a starting budget of just $50,000, Tilly cost closer to $125,000 in the end. Duty at Tillamook Rock meant isolation, horrible storms, and hazardous environment. On top of that, supplies sent to the rock were often delayed for days or even weeks. It was decommissioned in 1957 due to the extensive wear and tear. The lighthouse has bounced between a few private owners since shutting off its light. Even if you wanted to visit Tilly today, you'd have to resort to a helicopter because of the harsh waters. The rock is even off limits to its owners come time for the seabird nesting season. At number 4, Dulce Base. Like Area 51, Dulce Base is the subject of conspiracy theories claiming that a jointly operated human and alien underground facility exists. Apparently, the facility lies under the Archuleta Mesa Mountain on the Colorado-New Mexico border near the town of Dulce, New Mexico. On the surface, Dulce is just your average small town, so small it doesn't even have a single traffic light. According to the bizarre claims, the small town is just the tip of the iceberg. The alleged massive underground facility facility is said to be home to unimaginable experiments and technologies. For the extreme alien believers, we are all overlooking a high-tech world full of aliens. According to the conspiracy theorists, the Dulce subterranean base is a 7-story compound that houses human-animal hybrids, human-alien hybrids, and extremely advanced technologies. It is possible that it's all made up, but if the government really was experimenting with aliens, it would make sense that they do it under a mountain near a very small town. One thing I find interesting about the Dulce base is that these theories are not new. First claims of the base's existence date all the way back to the 1930s. The rumors of alien intervention didn't start up until the 70s when a former state police trooper named Gabe Valdez documented unexplained cattle mutilations in the area. There have also been claims of UFO sightings and other paranormal activity in the area over the years. Secret aliens or not, it sounds like there's definitely something strange going on in Dulce that I don't want to look any further into. Number 3. Fort Knox. I bet you've heard at least once in your life someone make a reference to something being harder to get into than Fort Knox, and there's a reason for this. Fort Knox is a United States Army installation in Kentucky, south of Louisville. The reason it's so hard to get into Fort Knox is because of the Bullion Depository, a fortified vault located adjacent to the Fort Knox Army Post. It's operated by the United States Mint Police, and it's super well known for its physical security. The depository was built back in 1936 and is operated by the United States Department of the Treasury. The excessive security is in place because it's home to over half the entire country's gold reserves. Early shipments of gold totaling almost 13,000 metric tons were escorted by combat cars to the depository. In the past, it's also been home to other precious items like the Constitution of the United States and the Declaration of Independence. Fort Knox is so heavily protected and secure that the vicinity is off limits to visitors. Even the president has limitations. In fact, only one president has ever been allowed entry, and that was Franklin Roosevelt back in 1943. Along with the heavy-duty physical barriers and fences, the government pays $5 million annually just for security. Number 2. North Brother Island. This tiny island in New York City is located smack dab in the middle of the East River between the Bronx and Rikers Island. It was the site of the infamous Riverside Hospital for quarantinable diseases. If you've ever heard of Typhoid Mary, this is the place where she spent her final days and finally succumbed to her namesake illness in 1938. After World War II, the island was repurposed as housing for veterans and their families. Then it transitioned to being a rehabilitation center for adolescent substance use, which ended up closing in the 60s amid allegations of fraud. After being home to many dark but important facilities, the entire North Brothers Island was closed permanently to the public and became a bird sanctuary. That being said, photographer Christopher Payne was able to go to the island in 2006 after being granted access by the New York City Department of Recreation. The photos he captured of the island are a little haunting, especially with its history of rehab centers and hospitals for the disease. These photos are interesting to see, but do not make me want to visit the abandoned island even if I could. The whole place looks like it's been taken over by, well, birds, and it's crazy that it's so close to the hustle and bustle of the city. Many people have stepped foot on the North Brother Island over the years, but now the only way to get a glimpse is through Payne's photos or if you have wings and a beak. And at number 1, Niihau Island. This island has been privately owned for over 100 years with only an estimated 170 residents. The invite-only island sparked so much interest from travelers across the world due to its extreme exclusivity, commonly referred to as Hawaii's Forbidden Island. It is the westernmost main and 7th largest inhabited island in all of Hawaii. Niihau is also a crucial habitat for some endangered plant species. The island was purchased by Elizabeth St. Clair in 1864 for just $10,000, which would be the equivalent to about $170,000 in 2021. St. Clair purchased it from the Kingdom of Hawaii, and the ownership has been passed down for generations, currently belonging to her grandsons, the Robinson brothers. The island is off limits to all outsiders unless the brothers Bruce and Keith personally invite you for a visit. The people of Niihau are noted for their remarkable craftsmanship and mainly speak in Hawaiian. The reason they have kept the island off limits to the outside world is due to a promise made to a former Hawaiian king. The promise was to protect the island from the mainland and the rest of the world to maintain the beloved heritage, and that's exactly what they've done. To this day, Niihau has rejected the use of modern technologies and survives without electricity, running water, internet, doors, restaurants, paved roads, or cars. A modern-day ancient civilization. It would be fascinating to see how they do things over on Niihau, but it's nice to know they've kept their promise for so long.